In this video we are going to look at Microsoft Project. In later videos we'll also look at areas of how do we allocate resources, but note that in the previous introduction video to Microsoft Project it talked about resource allocation. We'll begin this video by first of all looking at the Excel sheet from which we will take some information. So we'll click back on the Excel sheet that you looked at previously. In this Excel sheet you'll notice that there is a couple of columns that we'll be filling in, most noticeably the Slack column where we'll take information from Microsoft Project. As is the convention, we have got a number of columns where we're going to take information from and put them into Microsoft Project. These columns are the task name column and the predecessor column. You'll see that these columns are in green. We'll copy and paste them across shortly. Before we do that, also notice that we have a column called task ID number, which is column A. This corresponds to the task ID in the Microsoft Project, and it's important that we keep an eye on this to make sure that we are copying and pasting information into the correct area. So let's begin by the first step, which is going to Microsoft Project and making sure that we've actually set it up properly. So first of all, let's go into the options, have a look at the options, and we're going to set up a couple features. First of all, we're going to make sure the currency is in Australian currency. This is just a nice thing to do. And we just want to make sure that the schedule tab is also on, and making sure that we start our weeks on Monday, and we're moving about 1 year ahead of where we are. So we just want to make sure that we're ahead. We've got auto schedule that we've placed on, and we're going to then now be looking at, we moved to auto schedule for manual schedule, and we're also going to look at make sure auto schedule tasks are scheduled on project start date and not from the current date, and then we actually make sure we click OK. So in many ways we've now set up the project for the next step. We're going to go into project information, and we're now going to make the start date. Normally we just send this 1 year ahead to keep it neat, so we don't run into any elapsed time problems. If we put it from the present project, we'll get some elapsed time problems because we haven't actually started the project on the date that we meant to start it on. So once we've done that, we can go back to our task in our Excel sheet, and we can copy and paste the task name. As we're doing this, note that we are copying to the end, and we have gone from the beginning all the way down to the task ID number. We therefore highlight this and we simply paste, and we realize that all this has simply been pasted across. It's always wise just to have a quick look to make sure that your task ID starts at 1, scroll down to the very end, and look at your finished task ID, and you see your finished task ID is 89. Just go back to Excel as a quick little check, and you've got 89, everything is fine. Again, this obsessiveness saves a lot of time and effort later. Again, the same process occurs with our predecessors. You'll realize that the start predecessor doesn't have anything, it's simply blank, and the finished predecessor will have a number, which is 88. So when you go back to project, you simply make sure you're at the beginning, don't paste from the spot that you're at, make sure you're at the beginning, and then again just paste, Control V works. Again, scroll down to the end and just ensure that the last predecessor is 88. Now you can feel quite comfortable that that's been actually put in correctly. So let's now look to the next step. We've put in our task names, we put in our predecessors. Now we want to put in our duration. Now a little bit of care is needed when we're putting in our task durations, because these are actually a formula. So basically what we've got to do is we've got to copy these. Again, you will notice that there's a slight mistake in this Excel sheet. Personally, there's no need to make a summary of the time in relation to deliverables, since the summary of the time in relation to deliverables doesn't really mean anything because the deliverables may not be adding up. A summary of the total time of a project, again, isn't incredibly useful because of dependency issues. So we make sure that we've got rid of any problems like that. We're going to go down and copy. We've again got to be careful because we're copying a formula here, so we may need to copy this first, and we may need to paste it somewhere else. I don't think, let's try pasting it into Excel, pasting into project. My sense is that we're to paste that in, we may get a problem with the let's see what we get. It did come in. Sometimes you get a trouble with pasting that in because it's containing formula information, which can be a problem. Again, we just want to clear out this sort of factor, which is just a bit of noise. So you've noticed that we've actually pasted in the crystal ball estimates, which are fine. You could also paste in the TE estimates. The information isn't being taken across, so it doesn't seem to be causing any problems in Microsoft Project. Another way of doing this is to delete all this before you paste it in. Paste in as values, and you'll find that these should then come in as 0 days or as blanks. So there's a couple of ways of actually doing this. So we'll just go through the process and get rid of these days. Now that we've done this, we might just do it another way, just to show you there's another way of actually doing it. This works okay. You may go back to the Excel sheet again. Let's copy all that, which we have done. Now we'll move to another column towards the end, go to the beginning, and we simply go to paste and paste as values. Let's not do that way. Yeah, we'll just now paste as values. Let's copy the values and we'll paste that into Excel, into project, and you can see that seems to be a little bit of a neater way of actually doing it. Though we're still getting that problem of them putting in a 1-day issue here. So again, these are the things you just need to be a little bit careful of. Either way, you get some problems. You notice, because as we tidy all this up, you notice that now we have already got our Gantt charts appearing because we have set up a project at the beginning. So we'll just step through, make sure this is 0 days. It's 0 days because we don't want to put this as a summary of days, because this is actually a summary measure, and all the time is the sum of all the time of the deliverables below it, but we don't want to double include it because it causes some problems in Microsoft Project. So